Okay, so today's video is one that I have never made before and one that I think would really help benefit a lot of players right now. So Fortnite is in a weird state because right now it's actually busier, more active, more alive than it's ever been ever. Now a lot of that's due to the coronavirus right now in the world, unfortunate pandemic, but that has resulted in a greater community now evolving on Fortnite. So for anyone who's new, welcome to the channel, and for anyone who's returning, welcome back. And today I'm going to be telling you guys how to improve the most. Now I have got 5 tiers, and unfortunately not everyone's going to fit into each tier perfectly. Everyone knows themselves better than I know you individually. So if you feel like you don't really fit, or you fit in between a tier that I'm going to mention, then you know how to best suit yourself. So what I'm going to be telling you guys today is some basic ways to get better at Fortnite quickly, because no one wants to be that one guy who's always dead, feels like he's getting carried by the team, is always getting in a bit of a strop because he can't really do much. He's got all that mental energy and he's got that ability to slay, but he just can't translate that into physical movement in the game because Fortnite has a huge skill gap, that's no secret. So today I'm going to be telling you how to get better really quickly, impress your friends, and just perform better in games. So I've got a 5-tier system in mind, and I'm going to go through each one starting at very new, very low, and then all the way up to extreme pro. So let's get into this. Before we get into this amazing educational video, I want to mention to you guys to use code Ripire in the item shop when supporting a creator. Now, there's no point in not supporting someone, even if it's not directly me, but if you do support me, it will help support the channel and make more epic content like this. So if you're picking up any skins like the Wukong here, or the sizzling emote, or anything, make sure to use a code, and I would love it if you guys use code Ripire. But yeah, let's get back into the video. Starting off with tier 1, we have the player who is brand new to the game, has never really played before, and is very new to battle royales, and just maybe even gaming in general. So this is the very, very lowest tier. This is someone who can't build, can't really shoot that well, doesn't really know how the game properly feels, hasn't got what I like to call the game insight, which is, if you're an experienced gamer, you'll know what I mean, where if you don't play a game for a certain amount of time and you go back to it, you don't have that vision where you sort of see people in the distance and stuff like that, you see movement, whereas after a couple hours of playing, maybe in a day, you'll see that. It's like the insight, as I like to call it. So for those players, I would recommend starting off with the Red Menace Mansion warm-up. The code is on screen just here. I'll pause the video if you want to copy it down, but I'll probably have it linked in the description anyway. But this map is really good for a lot of tiers, and I'll be using this for a lot of the training. If you are a low level player, according to my list, don't take it personally as an insult or anything like that. Everyone's got to start off somewhere. Everyone was a bot at one point in this game. No one was amazing at day one. So just try and improve from that. Don't take it personally, and don't try and... Well, the worst thing you could do is try and rank yourself higher than you are. Always try and do a level below what you think you are, because then you'll be able to get that foundation super solid. So starting off, ignore all these edit courses and things like that if you're a brand new player. I would recommend using this huge open space. All you have to do, by the way, is just to go through the portal. It will put you out in the middle here. Go to the right. You have this huge open space. I would just practice doing this. So building ramps, building walls, just like a really simple little thing. Imagine you're just walking along and then suddenly you shot. You want to practice pulling it out and placing it very quickly. I'm just trying to reenact what happens. So eventually you could be like, oh, I'm getting shot from left or right or something like that. You can turn around, quickly place it, and immediately try and protect yourself. Now, another thing is to try and work on the movement. I've seen a lot of players that are new to the game not being able to sprint, not being able to look fluently. It's trying to be able to just get a sense for the game, like practice walking in and out buildings. And I mean, if you can do this, I mean, some people might not be able to, but if you can edit and stuff like that, practice trying to get through these weird edits and stuff like that, like moving between them. And wait, what's going on there? Like trying to practice between traversing buildings, basically, like the super basic stuff. I know for someone who's really experienced, this might seem like a stupidly simple thing, but for someone who's new to the game, this is really crucial stuff. You need to learn how to get between buildings, you need to know how to navigate yourself through the map. So that's the first thing I'd recommend. The next thing is the shooting range here. So the shooting range is more for just basic shooting and aiming, where these are all in positions that people would normally be in game. So you've got like a half peeker here, you've got someone up there, you've got someone tiny little head up there. You've got all these sort of builds people would use in game, and it's trying to practice shooting people even though they're hiding behind building, basically, and trying to maneuver your way around the side of the building to be able to see them properly. So that's just some basic shooting stuff there. Now the last tip I'd give for this tier is to basically play squads with someone who's either the same level of skill as you or someone slightly better than you. Now I would try and ask that player to either coach them and try and tell them what they're doing wrong and allow them to basically fight people. So if the other player is a more experienced player, to let the enemies fight you first, let you have a go at trying to kill them. If you die, then they can clean up afterwards. That's a really good way to get better in a familiar, comfortable zone, just in squads, just relaxing. And with the bots added to Fortnite now in squads, it will be a bit easier, but try to fight real players if you can. It's the best way to improve. So going on to my next tier, this is my medium tier, someone who's fairly familiar with the game. It's like a gamer in the past, but maybe not too comfortable with Fortnite itself. I'd recommend actually going on this map once again, maybe practicing with a friend on the 1v1 pit here. If you're not sure how it works, you both stand in the middle, you simultaneously walk up to a wall, that one, then the enemy, then it will disappear, and you can start building. So you can do that, warm up with that, as well as you can do some of the target practice that I've already shown, some free building. And if you're feeling a bit confident or you want to just try and improve on your editing, there are loads of edit courses here, but I'd recommend starting off in the far right hand corner back here and just trying to practice doing consistent wall edits, because walls are something that are very useful to edit in Fortnite, and it's something you're going to have to do a lot. The better you are at that, you can then build off that and basically work on your foundations to do other more complicated edits. So I hope that makes sense for that. That's going to be a creative warm-up for the medium tier. Now the next thing I'd do that I wouldn't recommend to the low tier, but I think is possible for the medium tier, is to go on play instead of create. That then fills your lobby with randomers, and I feel like it's a good place to then try and introduce some combat that is in a controlled environment. So you'll probably get into a lobby like this where there's random people just dotted around. We've got 9 players, it can go up to 16, and there'll be random worlds, so you can check who's in it. 0 out of 16, no one's in that, no point in joining that. And there's 10 in here, so this is Zone Wars. Now I wouldn't recommend Zone Wars for the medium player. I would instead recommend something like this. 4v4 scrims is alright, but I personally recommend, I don't think anyone has it here, there's a map called ID, which is basically a huge open space with every weapon in the game, and it's a great place just to warm up. So I'll see if I can find it for you. So this is the map. It's an absolutely huge arena where you can have players just build fighting, just warming up in here. There's little indestructible 1v1 pits in each corner of the map. These are the spawns where people can launch out, and that's where you can choose your weapons. It's the same in each spawn location, so you don't have to worry about different weapons being spawned in different locations. It's always the same. So as a little tip for anyone at any tier, I'd recommend whenever you're doing anything creative or any custom game, to try and use weapons that you're going to be using in-game. So there's every weapon in the game, or a lot of the weapons in the game, not every I don't think, but don't use stuff like this, like the tactical SMG or the LMG or anything like that, because these guns aren't in the game and they're not going to be useful for you to train with weapons and equipment like these that aren't in the game. You try and just use stuff that you are going to be familiar with, stuff that is going to be regularly available to you in game, and that's what I'd recommend to train with. The good thing about this is it's respawn, so anyone can play and anyone can join midway through. It's respawn infinitely as well. You can go up to any level. I mean, you got like 3 hours of this. I don't recommend playing it for that long. I think your eyes would start to be strained, to be honest. The medium tier, I'd recommend also doing squads like before, but instead of just doing squads, trying to do duos with someone who's about the same sort of level as you, or maybe a little higher, just to try and get that more independent sort of feeling, where if you die, it's not the end of the world. You've got a teammate who could help you out, but it's not like you're super comfortable in squads where if you die, it's no big deal, you're almost guaranteed to get back up. It's a bit more of an intense situation, which is a lot better to train in. Now for the next tier, this is someone who is a returning player to Fortnite, or is familiar with Battle Royales and gaming in general, is quite an active gamer. So I'd recommend duos, like I said before, like the medium tier, but also a lot of solos, trying to get that good, because solos is the best way to probably improve, I'm going to say. I mean, it's really annoying for a lot of people. I don't really like solos, but I have to admit that it does get you good very quickly. For this returning player, I'd also recommend arena solos. Just some light arena, not going too heavy on it, trying to basically get up to about Contender League or so. just trying to get through the first open league, but not going too heavy on it, just doing it occasionally, not to the point where you're getting frustrated, because that's just counterproductive. Now, by the way, just before I actually get into the next part of the returning player, I want to mention that everything that I've said so far is something that each tier should already know. So if you're a medium player, you should already know the basics beforehand. It should be like, by the time you get to the top, you know everything below it. It shouldn't just be like you know some of the things at the top and you have gaps other places. You need to have that solid foundation all the way through. So the returning player, I'd recommend trying to do some edits, just simple stuff like this, nothing complicated, nothing showing off. Now what I mean by showing off edits, I mean I'm just doing this super slow, super like casually, just to try and make sure that it's super consistent. I'm not going to be doing like this where I do these double edits and I could do triple edits and stuff like that. That is more showing off, and it has got its practicalities, but we can get into that at a later tier. So I would just do the basic things, making sure your edits are smooth and consistent, not worrying too much about speed, because I mean, you got to think, if you fail an edit and have to redo it, that's a lot longer than just doing it right the first time. So with these are just basically just practicing your warm-ups on different edits and re-edits. You don't have to do it at this speed, by the way. I'm just doing it as a sort of casual, slowy speed, but you can do it as fast as you feel comfortable. But the second you start making mistakes consistently, you need to slow it down and get your foundations better. So for the next tier is going to be the good/average tier. Now this is the player that is returned to Fortnite or has always played Fortnite but has never been exceptionally amazing but wants to get better. So this is basically going to be a pretty hardcore tier compared to the previous few. So you're going to be doing a lot more arena solos. I'm going to say trying to push up from, instead of open league to end of contender league, about where I am here. I'm just pushing champion. Definitely between the middle end of a contender league. You don't want to be at the start. You want to be consistently pushing yourself. I'd recommend trying to do solo squads. So instead of normal squads fill or with a squad, trying to do solo squads, because that is a very hectic, really high intensity way to get better, because you're dealing with 4 people simultaneously, maybe even more. If you can't do solo squads, that's perfectly fine. It's quite a hard thing to accomplish, so maybe trying to do solo duos instead could be a better way to then progress into solo squads. Now, something I haven't mentioned for any of the tiers so far is Team Rumble, because I feel like it applies to every tier. Due to it having a mix of all levels of players, I feel like it's good for anyone to warm up in, or just try and basically practice your builds in a realistic scenario on a real map. It's not just creative. So even if you're good, even if you're the best, even if you're the worst, Team Rumble's a great way to warm up in the morning. Also recommend doing creative box fights. Now, this is something I haven't recommended to any previous tier below it, because this one relies heavily on editing skills as well as fast action building. It's something that is very useful in Fortnite these days, and is a skill that is really desired in the competitive scene. So if you can perfect this, even if you're not good at 100% editing all the time, super speed yet, if you can just do consistent, reliable edits, you'll be able to pick people off with relative ease. So something new that Fortnite have added is the matchmaking test in creative, where you can assign yourself to do any of these maps that are like displayed, and it will try and find you a game of that map. Now, I'd recommend for this sort of good/average tier to be going into a Zone Wars map and trying to practice the pressure of the zone on your back in like a late game scenario. That's a really good way to practice. So for the last tier, the borderline pro tier, the very good/borderline pro, this is basically going to be trying to perfect your edits. Now, the reason, by the way, I do this, I did say that I would cover why I do this. So I edit that, then that, and then that, instead of just doing it like a sort of sweeping motion. Is because if you have a wall behind it, if I just place a wall here, and then you edit it like this, you can easily get caught on this, the floor. That's why I try and edit this one out the way, and then it's an easy sweeping motion. That's why I do that. There is method behind the madness, I promise you. So here are some ladder practices. So if you're feeling pretty rusty on your ladder edits, then you can practice those. And the best way to identify what you're not good at is by doing the edit course over here. So I'm going to do it in super slow motion for you guys, explain what I'm doing and how to do it. And I'm not going to be trying best right here. So you basically want to edit this like you would before. I do it like that, any way you want. Edit through the wall, you go back again, edit down again, through the wall, up again. Now where it says 90s here, now that doesn't actually have to be 90s, because I know some people can't do those yet. So I do like this. but by the way, if you want to know what I'm actually doing here, what I'm doing is placing a wall, then a flat, and then a ramp. I'm trying to do that in one motion, then turning 90 degrees, and then doing the same again, hence why it's called 90s. So you'll be ending up about here, facing the ladder edits, which is what we just practiced. So if you've identified that you're not very good at ladder edits today, and you want to warm those up, you can go over to the free roam edits and just try and practice those for a bit. Now, I'm not doing this at super speed or anything like that. This is what I like to call the close awkward edits. So this is where the booster will push you into the wall and you have to do a huge over-exaggerated motion to edit through. That's what I'd recommend to do here. Just really, really throw your mouse around or your controller sticks, just because you want to make sure you hit each corner there. Now these are something that people don't really do that often, but is definitely accessible in sort of competitive play. It's very useful to know how to do this. So I edit the corner here, then the corner of the one above me, jump, and then re-edit this one in front of you. So it's like that. And then edit the corner again, jump, re-edit. Now you can do the re-edit in one motion, so if you're wondering what that looks like, it's more like this. Oh, okay, well at the top now. This is the downwards cone edit, so it's editing through a floor and a cone. Just double tapping it. This looks easy, but I can promise you it's not actually that easy. It's easy to underestimate how hard that actually is. Here's some box edits where you're coming through a cone and a wall and a floor. Very easy, I think. Well, it might be easy for me, but maybe not for some people. Editing through walls, editing through ramps, and then at the very end, you can jump and touch the timer. An awful time by me, but I hope you get the idea of how to do that edit course. So it's a pretty simple course, but it definitely warms you up. So the last thing to do for this tier and the last tier of them all, I would say, is to try and compete in as many tournaments as possible. So have a look what's coming soon and try and make sure that you're available at that time and try and play your best, I guess. Try and play out those entire 10 games or however many games there are. Try not to rage quit and just try and stay consistent throughout, really. That's my advice. So that's going to be today's video. I hope you have enjoyed. If you have, leave a like and a comment saying so. Let me know which tier you think you are and tell me if this video helped you out. But until this video, guys, peace.